Alright. Hey guys, I'm Weather from the Summer School Discord, and today I'm going to be walking through a game following the Talia mid. Like always, whenever I go over VOD reviews, I like starting by going over win conditions. I think it's really important to understand what you need to be doing to win and how you're going to create early advantages for that win condition, and how you're going to close out that game with that win condition. There aren't really terrible comps in solo queue as long as you're able to play towards one of your win conditions. There are definitely dominant comps, but dominant comps usually just have an easier win condition. So let's go over win conditions. Your team has a heavy objective control jungler, good team fight presence between the Galio and the Lulu, and good roaming with the Talia and wave clear with the Talia and siege with the Caitlyn. This is a very kind of well-rounded comp, but it really depends on what a couple of you end up building. Because your only AD damage here is Caitlyn, and Caitlyn might have trouble depending upon how the game progresses, and your Galio, if he goes full tank, isn't going to be a damage source. He's just going to be, the meaty tank that's going to peel for something. But if you don't have damage to go with it, right, from like the Caitlyn, you might have problems. And you know that normally Kog'Maw builds Wit's End, and they're probably also going to get like a Maw in here somewhere and stuff, just because of the nature of your composition. So you'd already be planning at this stage of the game what you're going to be kind of building, and you're going to understand that you want to be trying to get this Caitlyn ahead. That's the best part of your win condition down here. Because if the Caitlyn starts doing a lot of damage, they're going to have to build armor. And if they build armor, they're letting the rest of your team have more potential, more options. Um, what you need to do with this is, as Talia, look down for those roams. What their team wants to do is they've got a good amount of pick and team fight as well between the Kha'Zix and the Warwick to pick someone off, and the Kog'Maw to just melt someone down, and the Nautilus to CC you, and they got poked too. So you both have very balanced comps, except for their comp has a lot of AD. This is a kind of weird flip. So if you were to get Ninja Tabi, which gives you armor, it also reduces the Kog'Maw's damage. Now, I'm not saying to do this on Talia, it's just something that you need to be considering as a team, right? This is something that this team is weak against. They also only really have two people who bring crowd control, and between these two, they only really have two important abilities you need to watch out for. A Warwick ult and a Nautilus ult. That's it. And those have really long cooldowns. So you should have, as a carry, a pretty easy time playing into a fight like this. Your team fight control as a whole is much better than theirs as a whole. But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to set up all the team fights you want. Your real goal is going to be early game to get this Caitlyn ahead. And since you have superior wave control because it's a Kha'Zix, you're gonna have he doesn't have wave control early. He's got no damage to clear that wave. At least not until he gets a Hydra or something. You should have very good opportunities to get those roams off. With this high objective control jungler as well, you should be looking to get an early dragon and even spin that into an early herald where you can use that to take mid turrets. If your Caitlyn takes this turret and then she rotates mid with you, there's no wave clear on Kha'Zix and you can get this next one. And even if you didn't have the bot lane get ahead and you got an opportunity to go and get herald with your jungler, then that's another way you can get your mid turret and get a lead over here. I don't particularly like where you're standing. Whenever you're trying to defend from invades, this is probably one of the worst places you could be. Because if they do have that, not necessarily warded, but like if they're walking down over here, and then someone walks up to you, right, you're further away than you need to be for the same amount of vision, because your vision's cut off here. If you're trying to be here to team fight, you're not in a position to chase. You have to walk all the way around this. So this is a very bad level 1 position to kind of be standing in. It's like where the Lulu is here, gives you that same kind of vision, or even standing it further back in this, or even standing over here, right? There's a lot of different places you could be, and this is, you're taking unnecessary damage. You do trade some, but that's bad for your laning phase now. Now, level one's really important because this is going to talk about like kind of push priority. It's going to talk about wave control. It's going to say who gets level two, who can respond to invades, and a lot of other things. Um, you're not using any of your abilities to wave clear this and to punish. You wait a very long time to throw your Q down. Yeah, I don't think your Q has that long of a cooldown, and you had plenty of opportunities to do this. Okay. Yeah, you're kind of trolling level one. You had windows to throw your Q out, because like the last time you Q'd was over here. It's definitely up. You're not trying for wave control, and I understand to an extent why. You're trying to make it so that way you don't hard push it into his turret and let him CS for free. But once this starts dying, right? If you're letting him get the CS for free, right? It's the same thing as pushing it into his turret and letting him get it for free over here. So what you need to be doing is, at this point, you need to be looking for this harass. Already you need to be looking for this harass. There's no point in waiting all this extra time. Plus, you're at a good position, right? The Talia worked ground mechanic is really kind of hard to manage after you start throwing it out, right? That's probably why you're nervous to throw it out, because you end up not having that skill later because that whole area that you just casted and you can't cast it there anymore. But if you look at your positioning, you're way over here on this side of the lane. You could pull yourself out all the way over here and start your Q. That's going to only screw with this area of worked ground, which shouldn't affect the rest of your lane. You're not thinking about your worked ground mechanic and where you can get your Qs off, because you end up putting down your Q right in the middle of your lane. And that could be the only reason I think that you're holding it. You're holding it in order to make sure that you don't overuse the worked ground. But you end up putting it smack in the middle of your lane. Smack in the middle of your lane. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're already going to do this, and you're already going to let him get all this CS, then you need to be punishing him. You let him get all of those melees before you even threw an ability or an auto at him. Yeah. You see how easy that was? Like, look at how little damage he's taken so far, right? He's taken a chunk of damage. That's like 150 damage. But that's from one auto and one time that you did your Q, right? Do you see how much damage you do with this? So why were you not attempting to get this? Whenever there's someone just giving you free damage, just like you take this free kill here, right? They're giving you free damage. You need to recognize to take all of those windows. And this is actually a very good time to recall too. Most of the time I see people not recall and they don't get to take advantage of that level and that money that they just got, you know. They come back, or they let them come back to lane, and then all of a sudden they that lead that you have normally flips. Now, he didn't have enough money to buy an item, but he's not necessarily going to be out leveled because you're both 2, right? If you had stayed here, you'd probably be 3, but he'd get 3 off of this too, so etc. You know, you don't have a lead unless you base, and you weren't really in a position health-wise to stay, but it was a good recall timer regardless. That was very disrespectful. And look at part of the reason why this is disrespectful. It's your worked ground. You put your worked ground in a place that makes it so that way you can't use your Q here. You're playing to this worked ground, and at this window, this is a very dangerous window. If you're playing with tracking the enemy jungler based off of like the clock, which is really easy to start doing. A standard clear from bottom to top, level 3, jungler finishes this clear between 2.5 and 3 minutes. And then they're looking for a gank around 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. So, as I was saying, this is a really risky time to even be trying to push up here. because none of these minions are going to die. You're on worked ground, so you can't trade. And the Warwick is looking to gank. There are three things that are happening here. Greeting for minions that aren't going to die anyways. You're not paying attention to your worked ground. And you're not paying attention to the jungler. You already used your sums, so this is a free gank if the Warwick wanted to come. And see, he was right here. All that damage for no reason. And really, Warwick should have shown up for that. With a flash fear there, he would have killed you. So you also need to be more attuned to when your lane is roaming. He very obviously is leaving here. If you're paying attention to what he does, this is incredibly obvious that he's leaving. Right? He's going up that way. Why would he be going up that way? Well, it's either because he wants you to push and then he's going to jump out from these bushes, right? That's option one. But option two is look where the Galio is and remember the timer. If you're tracking the enemy jungler, as I said, he's looking for this gank between top and mid between 3 and 3.5 minutes. So the Kha'Zix had life, plenty of life, still has Ignite. Warwick is able to gank this, but so is Kha'Zix now. So now if this was a standard 2v2, it's no longer a standard 2v2. And your Mia doesn't come out at all because you're not tracking the enemy jungler and you're not paying attention to your team's positioning. You need your Mia to come out right away. So far, worked ground mechanic. And if don't be warding this. Okay, so that's a pink ward. My complaint with this was going to be that the jungler was not going to be down here. However, with a pink ward like this sort of pink ward is not for preventing ganks. This is for creating gank opportunities, whether or not this is you roaming or you coming, like letting the jungler come mid. That is the purpose of pinking your lane. Not to prevent ganks, but to set up for ganks. So this means you're prioritizing potentially roaming bottom once you hit 6, so this is totally fine. I still feel like this comes out a bit early, but I don't think anyone's watching mid right now, so it's a relatively safe time to sneak one down. I also think that Talia has an easy time just walking around this, so it'd probably be better to pink out here, so that way you have it further. This ward would also provide some dragon control and some gank protection. So I would be trying to move this ward out a little bit further, and you have no threat of dying right now to do this, so I would be looking to push that out. But yeah, this ward is only for ganking. And you already know that it's not going to track the Kha'Zix because the Kha'Zix is 100% top. And now your Mia comes out. Do you know where your Mia comes out? They're already diving. Okay, and this is poor following. You have no reason at all to follow here because there are 3 people top, all with at least half life. So by the time you come up here to do anything, your team is going to have left. Your team doesn't want this, and you should never be looking for the 3v3 or the 5v5. You should never be looking for that because you can always create advantages in other ways. And one of the ways you can create an advantage here is just by pushing this in. If you push this in, you deny all of this XP and farm, force the Kha'Zix to come back mid, and then you roam. Because then the Kha'Zix is forced to be here, and you have a numbers advantage up here. This is no longer a 3v3, but you've waited for your Galio to come back, and it's now a 3v potentially 2 or 1, because the Kha'Zix has to be mid. The reason he chose to roam here was because you were forced into your tower and he wasn't losing anything. He gave you a lose-lose situation. You follow him now and you lose CS, or you let them have the numbers advantage and you stay in lane. This is a neutral. You don't have a lose-lose scenario here. You have a neutral. where you're looking for something whenever nothing else is going to happen. Meaning if you do not get anything in this roam, you're not doing anything to win. Very late roam, very risky roam, because Warwick could have also been up here. And you're looking for a like isolated 1v1 with Kazakhs. That's not good practice. That's not good practice. Yeah, you definitely deserve to die there. And if you want to talk about this, right? What does this everything has an opportunity cost. Everything has an opportunity cost. Whether or not that's your ward, whether or not that's your roam, whether or not that's your pushing, whatever it is, it's an opportunity cost. Kha'Zix and Warwick and Jace are all up here. You push out this wave, and then what if you went bottom? Right? Nautilus is low. You could potentially siege them down here. You could potentially kill them. It depends how this plays out and how much your team baits. But instead, you're looking for this potentially 1v1. But Warwick could have been here. So, okay, how do you know to go in for this type of play? Well, the smartest way you can start this off is by counting. And counting is one of my favorite little rants. You have to count two ways before you do anything with engaging, anything with putting down vision, anything with looking for a pick. Anytime you're about to do like any sort of a risky play, right? You count. CSing, you don't generally have to count, but if you're going to fight someone, you have to count. So the first way you count, you have to count both of these ways, by the way, both of these ways every time before you decide to do something, or else you're taking unnecessary risks. The first way you count is what is the maximum amount of enemies that could be there. The maximum amount of enemies that could be over here, right? That means that who the fuck is not on the map? There could be 2 people over here. That is the maximum, and that is what you need to assume is over here. You need to assume that. And then the second thing you want to assume, or count rather, the second thing you want to count is what is the minimum amount for your team. So if the jungler is pinging on my way, that doesn't mean he's there yet. Whenever you're counting, and your bot lane, for example, you are counting 2. That is the amount you count until your jungler is in that lane. Because he's not actually there yet until he's there, right? He can't do anything from over here. You can choose the fight, you can choose the 2v2, sure, you can choose the 2v2, but best practice is always to wait that little bit of extra time to have that numbers advantage, to have that 3v2. And in this sort of situation, like, right, bot lane, if bot lane was counting, they just saw 3 people top. So they aren't counting just by who's missing off the map. They're counting by where they were. So bot lane would only count 2 right now. You would have to count 2 enemies and only 1 of you. That makes this a really bad and unnecessary play because it's risky. And whenever you take risks that are a 50-50, that are a coin flip, that are, playing in this sort of fog of war, you're going to die just as often as you get a kill. Not only that, but you're looking into the other champions like Kit. You're looking into the isolation. And you had a very safe window to create a lead. Very unnecessary. This is very unnecessary. And you saw how you almost died. So again, we're going to go into opportunity costs a little bit more. And if I was making any sort of assumption here, I would say Warwick was going to do Raptors, chickens, whatever. Then he was going to be looking to go bottom maybe. Depends on how this goes. But at the same time, this is really fucking low, right? You just did all of this play up here, and now look at this that you could have dove. Now look at this that you could have sieged. Now look at these deaths that you could have prevented. Alright, well, your bot lane gets out anyways. But that's not always going to be the case. What the hell are they doing? Well, alright then. Some freebies are always nice, right? You want to push this out. They got 2 death timers that are very important. No one should be mid. Should be a very easy shove since you're Talia. If you're paying attention to death timers and stuff, you know they would be back here. Yeah. So let's talk about what happens here. And let's watch this ward. No, better yet, let's watch this ward. Oh, you saw them there. They were leaving lane. Probably going to dragon, right? Who knows? That ward that I put down, or that I was talking about, right? What could you have done? It's too late. It's too late. This is only a ward for ganking. That is all it's for. It's never going to save your life. Now let's talk about some other things, right? Because you're not paying attention to death timers, and you're not paying attention to how to shove, right? Because if you look at the way you shove here, right? You hit 3 minions with your AoE. You then kill half of the ones that are going to get popped by it a second time. You then direct your Q to the casters, and you have 3 of them miss. You're not wave clearing efficiently. So by the time that you finish that wave, right, when you had missed a lot of your abilities, you feel obligated to stay for another one for some reason, right? When this should have been enough to get to turret. And if that gets to turret, right, this is another instance of kind of greed. You stepped up to that earlier wave, and you're stepping up to this wave. This is going to bounce to you. If you feel like you have a very important item here that you should have stayed for, then remember earlier in this game? Remember this? Why didn't you stay for this? Right? You greed for kills a lot, and you greed for CS in strange ways. You feel the need to follow roams. You don't clear minions efficiently. You don't manage your worked ground. You don't ward correctly. You play into the enemy champion's kit. You ping Mia late. You don't pay attention to what's happening on the map down bottom side, both with health bars and with their roam. Okay. This time, you've just pushed them in, right? You're Talia, and you should be looking to roam here. The biggest reason you want to look to do something else is because you don't know where the fucking Warwick is. If you don't know where the Warwick is, then you need to not be this far up. You have no vision over here, and you have no vision over here, and you have a ward that's going to die soon over here. Meaning you're not safe. What could you be doing? You could be looking for this dive. Again, do you see this? Do you see this? And what if you didn't ult earlier trying to get away from that incredibly obvious gank that you could have warded better for, right? You could have gone down for this with your ult. What if you just walk down there with Nunu because this wave is looking pretty far in, and if Kha'Zix tries to clear this and shove the next one, it'd probably take him a minute anyways. What if you look to go top lane here because the Jace is really low and Gallia might be able to assist you? You would be going through like this, so this one's a little bit less likely because I would think the Jace would leave. Bot lane is a little more greedy, in general. But instead you stay here, and this is an unnecessary risk. This also draws your jungler to come mid and walk mid aggressively, thinking that he's going to need to help you. This is a terrible, terrible ward. Stop doing this. Seriously, stop doing this. This ward now, if it's a regular ward, does jack shit. Does jack shit. Because you could have just as easily warded over here. If you ward on the other side of this tiny-ass wall, it catches like 50 to 60% that comes through river, and it catches their own jungle rotating from camps to river. It sees them while they're setting up for this. It sees the Warwick that he's going to hop over this wall. It sees bottom lane a little bit sooner when they walk up. Ward over this tiny-ass wall. But then if you want to look a little bit deeper into this, right, look at when you do this. Right? Seconds later, Warwick's top. So now this ward's not going to show you anything, right? And you could have predicted where the Warwick was going to be. So now we're going to go over a little bit more on jungle timers, right? This is your secret to tracking the enemy jungle. It's on the minimap. It's yellow. When this icon is yellow, that means that the enemy jungler is going to start playing towards that side of the map. Once this is up, that means the enemy jungler is most likely on a camp either right next to it or walking over to this camp. And about 20 seconds after it spawned, the jungler has done it and is looking for a gank nearby. So, you just tracked the enemy jungler successfully. Super easily, too, right? Super easy. Because all you have to do is watch those fucking little icons on the minimap. That's where the enemy jungler is. Now, what was your ward going to do? Right? Not only was this in a bad spot, not only is this a bad ward, but you're not paying attention to the clock. You're not paying attention to the minimap. You should have known Warwick was top. You should have known. And that just makes this a wasted resource. You could have done a lot of other things with this, and it may not seem that impactful, but just like that, this instance where I'm saying, what if you had ult, right? What if you had ult? Well, then you could have gotten off this bot lane roam, right? And do you know why you didn't have ult? It was because of these wards. And once again, you're looking for these shitty 1v1s. There's no reason to be doing this. Do you see what play is down here? No, apparently you don't. But it's such an easy play. Now, this ward, I'll give you. And the context is different. You're tracking with it. You just saw the Warwick, and you think he's going to come back mid. This ward is a bit different because you're using it to track. It still doesn't mean you're safe, though, as you see with this death. Right? These wards are for tracking. This is for ganks and tracking. That's it. Because let's look again at where he comes from. What if you had a ward over here, right? This is where I'm telling you a good ward is. Once again, this is too late for you to react. Do you see this is not a good place to ward? It's huge to understand this as mid because this has cost you your ult, which has cost you 2 kills bottom. This has cost you your summoner flash, which is going to probably kill you later. This has cost you a recall and a death. It's super simple. Really, really simple mechanic to improve on too, which is why I'm targeting it. It's easy to improve once you start seeing these things. Once you start looking at that clock, once you start paying attention to what utility this has, I don't know how I'm going to tell you to fucking look bottom because like this is a huge part of your champion to look for these roams, and the only thing you have done so far is follow. You need to do more than just follow. Oh, is this where you do more than just follow? Okay. So, here's an interesting bit, right? It's interesting. So what happened here at the start of this? And I'm going to go back to counting, right? Whenever you make any decision that requires engaging or getting vision control or anything like that, you count. Where's Kha'Zix and why is he not mid? Well, why is he not mid is because you're not requiring him to be mid. If you pushed this out and then you looked for this roam, Kha'Zix would have to be mid, which would mean you would have 4 people down here. And it's not a waste of time because Nunu would just fucking do one of his camps and look for the exact same play. You guys force this looking for this team fight when you don't have to yet. Where's Kha'Zix and where's Warwick? Well, honestly, I wouldn't expect Warwick to be down here just yet because like it's gray and we had no vision on these camps, but I would be expecting him to be clearing down right now, so I'd be expecting him to be up here. Or even base walking out up to here. I would not expect the Warwick to be down here. But if you don't have vision of him, you got to start playing safe. You know? This is a risky fight. You've had so many opportunities to be coming bottom so far, and the first time you decide to go bottom is one where you don't have the numbers advantage, where you don't have health bar advantages. They're both full. Nice. This is a good roam. This is a good roam. You just required Kha'Zix to be mid, but now let's go into the problem with this roam. Are you tracking where the enemy jungler should be? Because he probably went to this buff, but he probably went to this buff like, let's see. You know, you base, right? Or you respawn, right? You respawn. And the Warwick respawns too. So Warwick's going to run to this buff as fast as you run somewhere. So you run mid, right? That means Warwick's already about here. He's doing this camp, right? Warwick's done that camp now. Now Warwick's going to be going to the next thing. Which means he's probably either doing Raptors or he's moving up the map, right? He's moving up the map. He's moving up the map. And he's mid. Okay, he's mid. So you do see him here. But the point is he's going up. Kha'Zix should have been able to catch that. This was really big tax. Also, you just burned all these summoners bottom. So it would be good to look for a return gank too. I was more focusing on the jungler, but if the jungler showed himself mid, then that makes this okay. The jungler is top now though, which means you got to be careful with pushing this. He probably has ult again. Yeah. You don't want to walk out like that. Walk out through your jungle. That was a great play. Very simple. Good. What you need to do after that, though, is the only point of kills is the objective you get afterwards. So once you kill the Kazakhs here, that means that you as a team, the Jace is walking top right now because you had just pushed in that wave and he wanted to go get that. That's the assumption you make, which means that the only person who would be going mid right now would be Warwick, but that's probably still enough to stop you from getting this turret. Now is where you get Dragon for free, for absolutely free. If you get this bot turret, that's fine too. A little bit of extra resources used, but it's totally fine. Looking at their wave clear, you could even press for a second one if your Caitlyn did stay alive, but since your Caitlyn's not alive, you're probably going to have difficulty taking this. Are you still going to end up getting it? Oh, no. Okay, so there you go. See, you would have difficulty taking this. And kills don't matter, and you did not get the objective. You had a win. See, you traded 1 for 1 when you could have just gotten this for free. And then after this, you could have either based or rotated mid. And by the way, Jace just took top turret because of all of that stuff you used to get down bottom. So all of those resources and stuff that I was talking about, right, that you used a lot of resources to get down here, not only did you use a lot of resources, but it was a net neutral or even exchange because of this. And remember how I said that you chose to follow that one time instead of pushing in the wave? This is exactly what Jace does. He pushes in the wave. He makes it so that way you guys come out of this net neutral. This is what you could do too. And if you guys just looked for the dragon here, it would have been a smaller victory, but you would have not had to have the Galio TP. And even if you didn't have the Galio come down, I think you still would have picked up both of those kills in the turret. So, yeah, overall, team-wide, that was a pretty bad play. There wasn't a whole lot you individually could have done there, but you could have shot called the dragon instead. Caitlyn also choosing to go mid instead of top cost you guys 2 turrets for... Jace is a little bit slow with that. Okay. I thought he was going to get that second one. This is that greed again. Okay, I thought that he was going to survive longer than that. Their team was looking over. You don't want to be going bottom. You don't create any pressure on the map, actually. One of the best ways you respond to pressure is by creating pressure. So right now, they have 3 people down bottom lane, and if you came down here, best case scenario, you kill 2 of them and they still get the turret. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario, you come down here, they kill the turret anyways, they kill you, or you leave. Just straight out because they kill the turret anyway. It's too late to come here. You just killed the Kazakhs, though, and their TP is coming in over here. Your bottom lane is respawning in 2 seconds, and your Nunu has anywhere in the map that he can go. Send your bottom lane and Nunu to defend the second one, and you pressure the second one, or you dive top. By going bottom here, you waste time and you lose map pressure. You lose anything you could have done in the second. And this is exactly what I was saying. All of your plays are reactive. You only follow, whether or not you're probably following the Nunu shot call or you're trying to react to them taking turrets or them roaming. Talia's not a good champion for that. If you want to play someone who's reactive, then you don't need this roaming ultimate. This roaming ultimate is for proactive plays, not reactive. Basing there is really greedy. You use heal and flash and you trade 1 for 1 and then you overextend and you die. This is incredibly greedy. You did not need to recall there. And look at what you're losing on the map. Like, again. 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 You have no wave control. And now you've given up mid turret. If he just wanted to take mid turret here, he had mid turret. You're letting this Kha'Zix back into the game. And you blow your summoner spells and still trade 1 for 1 here? Lulu exhausts. Look at all the summoner spells burned for your greed. Like, let's go even further back. Your greed here to do this recall on a ward, knowing Warwick was here with ultimate. First goes your heal, right? Then micromanaging this team fight, your team chooses not to ward these brush. Alright. Did Caitlyn flash over there? Where was Caitlyn's flash? I don't know where Caitlyn's flash was. It looked like it was on cooldown. Yeah, so 1 summoner spell, 2 summoner spells, and somewhere in there your flash. 3 summoner spells and 1 for 1 still. They could have also just gotten your turret. Warwick alone could have probably killed you down here with the TP and the Nautilus. That's so excessive. The TP wasn't going to do anything. TP is too late. TP is another thing that you cannot use reactively. There's no reason to push up for that. If you're just trying to wave clear, right? You have to just be trying to wave clear because you're not you're counting, right? There's 2 of them. And if you're trying to be an assassin Talia, then why are you playing Talia? You play Talia for roams and for wave control. She has good damage too, yeah. But like if you're playing assassin and you roam reactively, then Talia's not a good champion for you. Look at the lack of wave control your team has. You're getting pushed in bottom. You're getting pushed in top. You barely won this fight mid. Look at health bar. The health bar that you left with. And because of their wave control, they draw your Caitlyn bottom. For some reason, Nunu is down there too. And you have no map pressure because of this, right? You don't get anything. You get a kill. You prevent them from taking your tower. That's it. Very reactive. Right here is where you Baron, probably. Taking 2 is fine, but you need a base immediately after this. Because otherwise they'll just rush Baron. So your team as a whole has poor communication with the wave control top. If you were top lane right now and Galio has TP and Baron's up, and the reason I'm saying stuff specifically like this, 'cause I don't know if you guys are pre-made or not, but I'm recognizing that a lot of you have the same like clan. So I don't know if that you're also a part of that clan or if you're solo here. But if you're part of that club, then I'm just making an assumption. You guys need to be playing together. And the way you would be playing together here is sending the TP bottom, and you'd already cleared top, so there's no reason for the Galio to be going top. This is tunneling on just I'm the top laner. You see, you have Kog'Maw down here that you're going to have to respond to eventually. And if you had Galio down there, Galio could have wave cleared this easily. And you still would have had the same Baron pressure that you had. And this is just unnecessary greed. Well, I don't know why you're looking for this. This is where you Baron. You need to value Baron as a team much more. You killed 3 of them. Is the Jace alone going to stop you? Great, let him try. You'll kill him. Go Baron here. Send the Galio bottom after, send the Galio to Baron, and then have him TP bottom afterwards. Because you have 5 people to burn Baron. Ping this shit. Do this. This is your shot calling because you're the one who dropped the wall. It's not a team play thing. This was your decision, and you could have Baroned. You did end up still getting an inhibitor, but I still think Baron would have been a much better play here. Because if Kog'Maw left early instead of dying over here, or he didn't die, but if Kog'Maw left early and then based, and your team has no vision of this, they could have rushed Baron with a Kog'Maw and very easily done it, which means that you lose out on Baron, which is enough time to get your inhibitor back, their inhibitor back, right? And also potentially give them map pressure that entire time because they only need to be mid with Baron and send one person off to the side, and all of a sudden you're losing in a side lane. And beyond that, Baron gives everyone 300 gold, and the tower that you took gives everyone 150. So even though this opens up the map, the gold disadvantage would have been in their favor. They would have gotten more gold than you did on that play, which meant they were more likely to win the next fight. There's no reason for you to be mid here at all. Supers are going to push this up. By choosing to be mid here, it's because you're A-ramming. You need to be getting Baron control. The way you get Baron control is with a pink ward and top wave control at this point. You need to be top, and you need to be pinking something. If you're not buying a pink ward with a broken stopwatch in your inventory, then you need to sell that and buy a pink ward, and that is huge. If you think that it's important enough to pink this ward that should never save your life but will create roams that you didn't do, then you need to understand the importance of pinking Baron, which will get your team 300 gold each, which will get you objectives, which will get you pushing pressure, which you can't do otherwise apparently, and it will end the game. It will close out a game. You need to put focus on this and pink wards on this, and right here, going mid just means you don't know what to do, which I understand that that's kind of why you're here. So, I'm not trying to be super mean whenever I'm saying these things, but I am trying to be critical because the more problems I point out and the more stuff that I'm giving you to improve on, I feel like that is just more opportunity for you to grow. So whenever I'm saying these things, even though it might come across as a bit flamey, I mean it with good intentions. Um, a lot of the stuff that I point out, like with vision, I think that this is the easiest sort of untapped potential to let people climb. And now I'm going to go back into a little bit of like flaming, but not flaming. Remember how I said there's no reason for you to be middle? Well, one of the other things I said is if I was their team, I would be rushing Baron here. So, of course they're all going to be over here, right? And all of your vision is over here. So, by being right where you are and pushing a lane you didn't need to is another unnecessary risk. This is the same thing as you following these roams against a Kha'Zix and going into blind darkness and looking for the potential 1v2, not counting down here. If you're looking for these sort of plays, then you need to be waiting for your team and you need to be pushing the proper lane because this one's going to push on its own, which is going to draw people over to this lane, which is going to create a numbers advantage while you siege this, or while you do Baron, or while you bait Baron. There's a lot you could do, but being mid lane is just because you don't know what to do. And the consequence of that is this. Once you're up, I'll go to Baron because you have wave control down here. You have wave control in the middle. They have plenty of things to lose, and you don't even have to do this right away. You could just wait till you see someone show up bottom. But this is a really great call. And why? You have wave control mid. You have wave control bottom. You have 5 people here. That means they're going to have a lose-lose situation, just like the mid lane thing. Kha'Zix pushed you in, so you either were going to get the CS or you're going to follow. This is a lose-lose situation. You're either going to get the CS or you're going to follow. And in solo queue, if you set up situations like this, I guarantee you're going to have a lot better fights because you're going to have numbers advantages more often than not. And since their team has no wave clear, it's as simple as your guys going mid and just closing it out here, or even going bottom with this huge wave. You guys decide to divide, which is not smart. You don't need to keep pushing this wave alone. But now you've wasted death timers. See, remember I said you could have gone mid? Well, if you went mid, I meant right away. Right? Look at health bars when you guys recalled. You had maybe one person who really needed to recall, and that was Galio. That's it. And you see how close this turret gets to dying anyways? Right? What if you had a Caitlyn auto-attacking that with a Nunu Blood Boil? Well, yeah, that would have ended the game. That's what would have happened. Going bottom here is fine, but for some reason Caitlyn's not there. That's not a split push that you want. You want the Caitlyn because she is your best siege to be down here. Instead, your siege is left with just Lulu and Talia, and the Caitlyn's gonna die. Oh, she should have died. All right, well that's game. So to highlight your problems, vision control is a big thing. How you manage your worked ground, how you manage your wave with your abilities, you spread them in a bad way. you don't manage your wave with regards to when you roam. You're not creating any sort of advantage or requiring Kazakhs to be here. You just kind of leave whenever you feel like it, whenever your team calls for you, or whenever the Kazakhs is roaming. You clear your wave, then look to roam and follow. You're never creating an advantage by doing that. The way you use your pink ward is only to create ganks, and you never use that to roam, which is a wasted opportunity. You play towards the side with the jungler on it a lot, which means you're not paying attention to the timer, and you're warding the opposite side of the map, which means you're not tracking or paying attention to the timer. It's really, really easy to track once you become aware of it. You're not paying attention to the map as a whole whenever you're looking at opportunities bottom. Instead, you chose to look for the Kazakhs 1v1, and that was a risk you did not need to take when there was a very safe gank bottom. Your greed for CS whenever you know it's going to hit your wave, your turret, and you could just wait for it. You greed for the assassin play on Kog'Maw, which makes you less able to be a part of a follow-up fight. And if someone ulted you, like Warwick or Nautilus or something, then you would probably die because you wouldn't have the health to survive it, even with Lulu ult being already as chunked as you were. Um, your you don't pay attention to vision with respect to counting. You go in on a lot of your fights just looking for these 1v1s. You react late to a lot of things, whether or not it's someone leaving your lane and you don't ping Mia till they're already tower diving, or you are just following the Kazakhs like top lane whenever they had 3 people, like a wave late when you could have done something else. Your late reactions and late ults are a problem. Your late reactions to roams, like the bottom lane roam, which you did see them leaving, but it was very brief. You did see them leaving up here, which means you're not paying enough attention to the map. Part of that problem again falls on that pink ward, which you keep using this as a defensive brush. It's not a defensive brush. You probably die a lot in lane due to this type of warding. Your positioning in team fights is okay. I don't have huge problems with it. I do think you went a little bit aggressive sometimes, but they only had 2 important cooldowns to really watch out for. So you weren't in a dangerous game to be doing that. You were fine positioning a little bit off. But your positioning, if they had more threatening crowd control and damage, would have been problematic. Let's see. Your objective control, whenever you guys decided to take this turret, for example, and you had everyone like the Galio come down and stuff, it would have been a much better and safer play to just go for the dragon here. It would have been a smaller victory, but it would have put your team a net gain when you saw that it was a net neutral. And that's not what you want to look for. You want to look for these advantages. You want to put your team ahead. I would be looking for a lot more early Barons with, again, pink ward control, but also wave control. You often are, as a team, pushing the wrong lanes. Caitlyn is on the wrong side of the map. Galio was following you after you were already pushing this wave. And you went mid whenever you didn't know what to do, and the supers were already pushing this when you should have been pushing top lane. Let's see. I don't really have a huge comments on builds or anything like that. You guys were ahead and you built Magic Pen, which is what you needed to do because that was super important for your team. But you also had a Caitlyn that got ahead on her own, so they had to build armor too, so Magic Resist wasn't going to be their only items. Your Caitlyn and Lulu stomped this game, and that is not going to be the case every game, and you had tons of chances to impact that lane, so you should be looking to use some of those chances. Alright, well that's the end of this review. Hope some of that was helpful. And yeah, good luck out there, man.